Hello, I am Bentham, and today we're playing Factorio. So in the previous episode we found out that our copper supply was nowhere near enough, and so today we're going to fix that. So, the first thing I do is have a bit of a look around, and I decide that we're going to start working on the ore deposits to the west. And so the first thing I do is start producing ridiculous amounts of conveyor belts, because I'm going to need them to get all the ore back. I mean, I could do trains, but we'll do that some other time when it's a bit further away, or whatever, or just when we want to. While that's happening, I check power supply and stuff, and resupply on various different things, just to see if I can get it all done in one go. As it turns out, I messed that up entirely, but whatever. So we start running along. We're having a quick look at the iron supply while we're there, and then we get to the deposit. So we start setting up a wall around it, encasing the entire thing to protect it from mean aliens that want to destroy all the things I'm going to build. And I realise immediately that I messed up completely, because I haven't even made half of the wall with the stone that I got. So I run back home to grab a bunch more stone, and then I get distracted and do some general looking after of the system. I notice a complete lack of red science packs, which is a bit worrying, probably needs dealing with, but at the moment everything's running at pretty much full speed. I'd need to get a level 3 assembler going, and that's a bit fiddly to do. At least at the moment. Later on it'll be a lot easier. I notice that we're filling up our coal supply once again, but anyway, I go over and get some stone. I realise that the furnace has run out. So I decide to go to this deposit over here and set up a new furnace here, so that we can keep on producing stone once the supply over on the right has run out. So with all this new stone that I have, I run back to the base. It's now in the middle of the night, so I can't see anything. And I carry on setting up the wall. Make a slight mess up there. I didn't realise the positioning of the deposit. Let's move it up a bit. And then of course what happens is I run out once again, because I'm an idiot and I can't tell how much stone you need to make a thing. So I'll put in the mining drills. Quite important in the grand scheme of things. And then I start hooking up the power supply, and in this one I'm going to try and have it all with not use all the little electric poles that you have, because what you're really supposed to do is upgrade to the substations so that you can do that, but I just sort of never do. I carry on using the tiny electric poles when it's entirely unnecessary. So in this base I'm trying to use the substations to do everything. So what I'm doing here is I'm trying to work out the right positioning to get all of the copper covered, and in the end it doesn't work. And if you look there, I noticed an interesting feature where two pieces of copper are next to each other on one half of the belt, and they actually make everything moves slower on the belt and block the whole thing up, which was a bit weird. But anyway, it's getting in the way of production, so I get rid of it and carry on. And I'm going to work out where to put the furnaces to cook up all of the copper. So I'll have a bit of a think and decide to plonk them there. And then get the conveyor belts. We get a bit of science done. At the moment, the only science I'm working on is upgrading military stuff, just like the general like gun turret damage, gun turret speed, and then damage and speed of me and all that, just because at the moment there's no particular bit of science that I actually want. We've made quite a bit of progress recently, so there's not that much left to actually research. I mean, there's plenty of research left to do, but it's only on logistics and a couple of other little things like that. So we have a look around our copper base, and of course what it needs is defenses. So I start producing a bunch of gun turrets to go around the place. Don't have enough on me at the time. I keep running out of supplies. I always completely misjudge the supplies that I'll actually need to build an outpost when I go to build it, and I always end up having to run back and resupply a bunch of times. So you can see this conveyor belt's moving along nicely. So we'll hook it up to the furnaces, and then we'll carry on our way, because we need to get a bunch more iron. I think we're completely out or whatever. Or are we? Or is it copper? We're out of something. Oh, it was iron, yeah. And also ammo, because of course we've just put a bunch into those guns. I also dump a bit of plastic on the production line before realizing that it was a bad idea, because I need to just make that little modification so that the plastic doesn't end up on the wrong side of the line. And I noticed that the smart inserter production is terrible right now, and I trace it back and find out that it's because of the lack of copper, of course, because you need circuits for the smart inserters, and they weren't coming through because there weren't enough of them, and that was because the circuit production wasn't good enough, and because the copper production wasn't good enough. So I realized that we now have a ton of effectivity modules, so I go through and put them in everything. We're finally getting to the stage where every single machine in the factory has is completely full of effectivity modules. Everything is not quite as efficient as it can be yet. In cases where there are 2 slots for modules, you're not quite there, because the modules take off they take off 30% of power usage each, and that adds up to 60 when their limit is 80. So in the case for the assemblers and the electric furnaces, we could still do with another upgrade just to get it to full speed, or whatever you want to call it. I realised that there's actually an oil deposit right there, and it's kind of in the way, so I decided to move production over a little bit. And this area actually gives us a bit more room to breathe with everything. So I redirect the copper ore, avoiding having to pick it up and not put it all down again, because that's annoying and waste of time. And then we start actually hooking it all up. So there we go, we've got power to it, and then we have power to the output inserters. Now all we need to do is actually get them into the copper system. And of course I want to do this as efficiently as possible in terms of using the conveyors, because who knows how fast production will get one day. This could stay as the main smelting area for copper for the rest of the game, potentially. So I hook it up like that so that it's all evenly spaced and everything, and then I hook up the old copper line to it. But then what happens immediately is the copper line actually runs out. So as I'm moving along and destroying everything, the copper itself is moving along and clearing the line for me to destroy it. So I run along and get rid of all this, and it looks like we were just in time really with our production. I mean, we had 4 furnaces going on in the other area, but it was nowhere near enough, and we've now got it up to, I think it's up to 8. I forget how many I put in. I think it was, I put in 4. Yeah, it was 4. So we've immediately doubled copper production there. But of course that's probably not enough yet, and after having a quick look I decide we're going to need to make an addition. At the moment, actually no, I don't think we can support adding on 2 more, because we have 5 mining drills producing the copper ore. So actually what's now going to be happening is the line will be depleting. Of course it's a long line, and that had completely filled up before it started being used, so it'll take a bit, but eventually the copper will run down, and then one of the furnaces will just be switched off. So that's something I'll have to deal with later. So the next thing we do is something else. I don't know, we get all sorts of stuff done. There's a lot of just kind of general maintenance and things. There's running around ferrying stuff from one place to another, making sure I have a good supply in my inventory. We have a quick check of the outpost, see that all the mining drills are still in use. And of course we need to finish off the guns here, so I start doing that. I've got all the supplies for it now. Quite a lot of guns in this one because it's a larger base. I maybe didn't need quite as many, but you know, better safe than sorry. I've learned to keep my places well defended. I've had aliens run into my main base before and just start wrecking everything. It's horrible. So anyway, we have so many effectivity modules that we can fill up all of the mining drills in all our outposts as well. So it's pretty awesome. Power usage will have plummeted by now. And what we can probably do at this point is take out some more steam engines from the system, and that'll reduce pollution even more. And thinking about it, we haven't had that many alien attacks that I've noticed. I mean, we definitely had some at the beginning, but I don't know about what's happened later on, because the pollution's definitely receding. I think at this point there's only one base in range, and that's the big one with like 8 spawners or whatever it is. So I noticed that the oil production needs a bit of maintenance, so the crude oil is started to be used up, so I added on another oil drill thing, pump jack. What I also noticed was that the oil fractions were getting a bit imbalanced, so we had a lot of petroleum gas and not so much of the other two, so I switched off a couple of the chemical plants that were messing about with that, and that should keep things going nicely for a while. I also increased the advanced circuitry production there because I noticed that we had a huge backlog of normal circuits, and then advanced circuits were in short supply, so I made I fixed that quickly. And then we've made a bit more progress with the coal mining, so what we can now do is to clear up more space and just get things out of the way. We can flip all these around using R. It's quite a convenient feature that you often forget about. If you press R while moused over something that's already placed, it will rotate, which is convenient. It means you don't have to pick it up and put it down again in the other rotation. It's nice that they put in features like that. It's sort of stuff you don't even think of, so you don't even think to try it, and then it turns out it works, and you say, oh, that's nice. Anyway, we're really filling up the coal supply at this point. It's getting quite concerning, really, how much coal we're getting from it. It looks like we're going to have just a huge plot of land full of coal chests. So anyway, as stone production was reducing over the other place, I decided to set up some mines here, and this should be working for a long time because of how much there is. There's tons of stone there, and we don't use stone that much. It's only to make walls, and as time goes on we'll probably be making less and less walls because, I mean, we'll still be building them around outposts, but we'll be able to recycle them from old outposts and things. So anyway, we've been producing effectivity modules all this time and distributing them everywhere, but the thing is that's not the only kind of module you can have. You can also have speed modules and productivity modules, so I set up production for those. And what the speed modules do is they just make everything faster. And it's at a cost, I think, of like a much higher energy consumption or more pollution and whatever, or maybe both. And then productivity modules will increase the amount of product that you will get from your raw materials in an assembler or whatever. As time goes on, every time you produce it, it will a second bar will fill up a little bit, and when that bar is filled up, it will produce an extra one of whatever you're producing. So it's nice if you're having a little bit of a supply shortage and you want to just increase production by that little bit, though it does have quite a high energy cost. If you get some of the really good ones, then you can really start to ramp up production of things. So anyway, I noticed that we're getting to a point now where the flow of the flow of plates is getting so much that it's not being fed in quick enough. So what I do is I add in I change out the conveyor belt for a new faster one, and that should help keep the flow up. Though one problem is that it works best when the supplies when the supply is on both sides of the conveyor belt feeding in. At the moment for copper it's only on one, which is something I need to fix, and I probably will at some point. But anyway, what we now do is, because we're starting to use the faster conveyor belts, what we really want is to be able to have the fastest conveyor belt going. So I work out the right way to siphon off some iron in the way I want. Fiddling about for a minute trying to work out how to do it best. Eventually I come up with that design. The thing about the fastest type of conveyor belt is that in the most recent update they made it so that you can't actually produce it in your own inventory because it needs a liquid, which is a lubricant made out of heavy oil. So you have to set up a production line for it, but the production line is quite simple really, because it only all of the components only use iron. So what you can do is is you can get an iron supply going, and then you put in a cog factory or gear factory or whatever you want to call it, and then you make basic conveyors going into faster conveyors going into the fastest conveyors, and they will the product will go through those, and then they'll also siphon off whatever cogs and iron they need to produce the various components. And so, of course, the other thing that we need is the lubricant, so I go and set up a chemical plant for that, and then I start getting the pipes back. And then once that's hooked up, the whole thing will just work on its own, and we will slowly get a supply of the faster conveyor belts, which we'll use where in the particularly high-speed parts of our production line. So that's hooked up now, and now the belts are starting to be produced, so I set up a chest for that, and they'll all go into there. So later on I can come back and have a look, and it should all be filled up. I also noticed that the cog production isn't actually quite enough to keep everything fully supplied, but it'll be fine because, you know, we don't need the production to be really fast. We just need it so that eventually we can go over there and just pick some up and be able to use them. And maybe there will be times when we do need a high supply, but not that often. But anyway, we're coming to the end. We'll do stuff in the next episode. Until then, I shall say goodbye. Thank you for watching. I shall see you next time.